Hello everyone and welcome to Evolution of Final Fantasy games. Final Fantasy is a fantasy role-playing video game developed and published by Square in 1987. The first Final Fantasy story follows for youths called the Warriors of Light, who each carry one of their worlds for elemental crystals which have been darkened by the four elemental fiends. Final Fantasy II was released in 1988. Final Fantasy II introduced Chocobos and the recurring character Cid. It also eliminated the traditional experience point leveling system of the previous and later games in the series, instead introducing an activity-based progression system where the character's statistics. Final Fantasy III was released in 1990. The story revolves around four orphaned youths drawn to a crystal of light. The crystal grants them some of its power and instructs them to go forth and restore balance to the world. Final Fantasy IV to feature the job change system. Final Fantasy IV was released in 1991. The game's story follows Cecil, a dark knight, as he tries to prevent the sorcerer Golbez from seizing powerful crystals and destroying the world. He is joined on this quest by a frequently changing group of allies. Final Fantasy V was released in 1992. The game begins as a wanderer named Bartz investigates a fallen meteor. There, he encounters several characters, one of whom reveals the danger facing the four crystals that control the world's elements. Final Fantasy VI was released in 1994. The game's story follows an expanding cast that includes 14 permanent playable characters. The narrative deals with the themes of a rebellion against an immoral military dictatorship, pursuit of a magical arms race, use of chemical weapons in warfare. Final Fantasy VII was released in 1997. The game's story follows Cloud Strife, a mercenary who joins an eco-terrorist organization to stop a world-controlling megacorporation from using the planet's life essence as an energy source. Events send Cloud and his allies in pursuit of Sephiroth, a superhuman who seeks to wound the planet. Final Fantasy Tactics is a 1997 tactical role-playing video game developed and published by Square. The story follows Ramza Bialv, a highborn cadet placed in the middle of a military conflict known as the Lion War, where two opposing noble factions are coveting the throne of the kingdom. Final Fantasy VIII was released in 1999, set on an unnamed fantasy world with science fiction elements. The game follows a group of young mercenaries, led by Squall Lenhart, as they are drawn into a conflict sparked by a sorceress named Udia Kramer, who seized control of a powerful military state. Final Fantasy IX was released in 2000. The plot focuses on a war between nations in a medieval fantasy world called Gaia. Players follow a thief named Zidane Tribal, who kidnaps Princess Garnet till Alexandra 17 as part of a ploy by the neighboring nation of Lindblum. Final Fantasy X was released in 2001, set in the fantasy world of Spyro, a setting influenced by the South Pacific, Thailand, and Japan. The game's story revolves around a group of adventurers and their quest to defeat a rampaging monster known as Sin. The player character is Tidus, a star athlete in the fictional sport of Blitzball, who finds himself in Spyro after Sin. Final Fantasy XI Online was released in 2002. The story is set in the fantasy world of Vanadiel, where player-created avatars can both compete and cooperate in a variety of objectives to develop an assortment of jobs, skills, and earn in-game item rewards. Final Fantasy X2 was released in 2002. Minus continues the story of Final Fantasy. The story follows Yuna as she searches for Tidus, the main character of the previous game, while trying to prevent political conflicts in Spyro from escalating to war. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles is an 2003 action role-playing video game developed by the game designer's studio. Players take on the role of adventurers who travel in a caravan gathering mystical fuel for crystals which protect the world's settlements from the destructive miasma. Final Fantasy XII was released in 2006. It introduced several innovations to the series: an open world, a seamless battle system, a controllable camera, a customizable gambit system, which lets the player control the artificial intelligence of characters in battle. Dirge of Cerberus, Final Fantasy VII, is a 2006 action role-playing third-person shooter video game developed and published by Square Enix. The game is set 3 years after the events of the original game and focuses on one of the game's playable characters, Vincent Valentine. In the story, Vincent is targeted by Deep Ground. Final Fantasy Tactics XIII, Grimoire of the Rift, is a tactical role-playing game developed and published by Square Enix for the Nintendo DS. Tactics XIII follows a young man named Luso Clemens after he is transported through a magical book to the world of Ivalice, rescued from monsters by a clan leader named Sid. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII was released in 2007. The game primarily focuses on Zoc Fair, a young member of the paramilitary organization Soldier, who is assigned to look for the missing soldier Genesis Rhapsodos. As he searches for Genesis, Zoc discovers Genesis' origin. Final Fantasy XIII was released in 2009. The game includes fast-paced combat, a new system for the series for determining which abilities are developed for the characters called Crystarium, and a customizable paradigm system to control which abilities are used by the characters. Final Fantasy XIV Online was a 2010 MMORPG for Microsoft Windows, developed and published by Square Enix, set in the fantasy realm of Erzea. Players took control of a customized avatar as they explore the land, and were caught up in both an invasion by the hostile Garlean Empire and the threat of the Primals. Final Fantasy Type 0 was released in 2011. The story focuses on Class 0, a group of 14 students from the Vermilion Peristylium, a magical academy in the Dominion of Rubrum, when the Militesi Empire launches an assault on the other crystal states of Orience, seeking to control their respective crystals. Final Fantasy XIII 2-2 was released in 2011. The game's plot features a heavy time travel element, allowing the player to jump between different times at the same location or different places at the same time. Lightning, the protagonist of the original game, has disappeared into an unknown world. Final Fantasy XV was released in 2016. The game features an open-world environment and action-based battle system, incorporating quick-switching weapons, elemental magic, and other features such as vehicle travel and camping. The base campaign was later expanded with DLC adding further gameplay options. Final Fantasy VII is a 2020 first-part remake of the original 1997 game. The game features an altered active time battle system from the original, which gradually fills up slowly or can fill faster with attacks. Once it is filled, the player can halt the action and use special abilities such as magic, items, and special moves. Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin is an 2022 action role-playing game developed by Team Ninja and published by Square Enix. Combat takes place in real time, with Jack being able to switch between two assigned jobs and use physical and magical attacks once an enemy's break gauge is depleted. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion is a 2022 remake of the PSP game. The graphics have been converted to HD, including new 3D models for all elements. The game also includes a newly arranged soundtrack and full voice acting for all dialogue. Final Fantasy XVI was released in 2023. The game features segmented open environments and an action-based combat system involving melee and magic-based attacks. There are recurring series features, including chocobos for area travel and summon monsters called icons, which are both fought as bosses and used through channeling their power in combat. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was released in 2024. It's a second part of remake of the 1997 game. The game features real-time exploration and combat with a more open-ended overworld compared to the linear progression of remakes Midgar. Objective markers appear in the heads-up display, highlighting main story quests and side quests to complete along with their respective distances from the party in the overworld.